All right, Bedros, you're 49.
Yeah.
You're pretty jacked. We just worked out, and you definitely hold your own. Let's put it that way, at least.
Thank you.
I want to know, what are your golden rules at your age of ripe young age of 49?
Yeah.
You know, when it comes down to building muscle, losing fat.
Yeah. So as I'm pushing half a century now, things change, right? Like my body used to be more forgiving in terms of injuries, in terms of diet, in terms of cardio. So if I were to have 3, 4, 5 golden rules north of 40, it would be that I prioritize protein way more than I ever have. You know, sometimes it's really hard to get all the protein you need. I weigh 225 pounds, so I'm always making sure that I get 230, 235 grams of protein a day. I've prioritized that more than ever now. Secondly, I keep my carbs down to 50 to 75 grams a day. And I know that's low, but at my age, with my metabolism, my body, and I've lived in this body for half a century now, almost half a century, 49 years old, it works for me. Once a week, I'll eat high carbs in a day, 400, 500 grams. And it's typically on Saturday because Sunday morning I train legs. So that's that. Sleep. I used to be the guy that would say, I'll get sleep when I'm dead, because I'm an entrepreneur. I love creating new companies. I love always chasing down opportunities. North of 40, I need to get 7.5, 8 hours of sleep. Otherwise, the muscle building, fat burning comes to a screeching halt. In terms of fat intake, I'm about 80 to 90, even 100 grams of fat a day, but it's a lot of fish fat, avocado fat. And then, of course, processed food. I used to be able to eat processed foods out of packages and bags, even in my 30s, and my body would be forgiving. Now I'll get bloated. We were just talking about that on the walk. I'll get bloated. My gut gets irritated. And I literally, like, veins go away and definition will go away for 2-3 days. And so I realize every meal matters now, north of 40. Every cardio session matters. And for me, I hate doing cardio, like typical on the treadmill cardio. So if I'm not walking or hiking, I found a new love in my life, which is jujitsu. And I'm so bad at it that I have to fight for my life for 90 minutes. And I just leave puddles of sweat everywhere. And I realize, like, I am maintaining my cardiovascular fitness while having a good time trying to save my life. And, you know, afterwards, then you shoot the guys on the mats.
After today's video, I popped the link down below for Thrive Market. Now, that is an online membership-based grocery store, and that is a 30% off discount link and a $60 free gift when you use that special link down below. So think about being able to walk into a grocery store and immediately narrow down what you want. You want sugar-free, you want high protein, you want this. You can use these filters and shop for whatever you want. Plus, I also have my own signature products that I've created with Thrive Market. I've created some low-carb keto truffles that are sweetened with allulose. I've created nut butters that are sweetened with allulose. So like these dessert butters, I've linked out to them down below as well. But you can also just go to Thrive Market and you can search for like Thomas DeLauer nut butters or Thomas DeLauer low carb truffles, whatever. Anyhow, that link down below saves you 30% off your entire first grocery order and a free $60 gift. So if you're shopping, you're getting groceries for yourself, you've got to check them out. And they've been a big supporter of this channel for over half a decade. So thank you to them and thank you to you.
And then in terms of training, I used to be the guy that would, till the last final rep, if it has to be a couple ugly reps at the end, I would do that. As soon as my reps get sloppy, I put the weight down. I've torn too many muscles, pulled too many tendons and ligaments, torn ligaments. In fact, currently I'm nursing a torn tricep. And so I realized it's not worth it to me. Like, you know, you're like, hey, we're going to do these things. I'm like, I've never done them. I'm going to start with 25-pound dumbbells. And you grab the 55s. Once I got the motion down, okay, does it feel good on my shoulders, elbows? Yeah, okay, great. Now I'll go to 35-pound dumbbells. Like, ego training has gone. Before it was like, whatever Thomas is doing, I'm doing. Now it's like, I'm just going to do me. We're going to have an awesome workout. Yep. And that's been working for me really well.
When you talk about your protein intake, per se, can you kind of walk me through a day of protein consumption for you?
Sure. So, you know, the boxes of egg whites, I'll have typically 10 ounces of egg whites and then 2 whole eggs in there. First thing in the morning, right after my workout, just like we did, I'll have 50 grams of protein powder, and collagen, which is another 10 grams on top of that. The collagen powder, it's actually 9 grams, but I just rounded up. So it's 60 grams of protein. Creatine in there as well. Post-workout, I'll have 2 chicken Caesar salads from The Habit with double chicken, no croutons, dressing on the side during the day at work at HQ. Another shake at 5 o'clock, 5:30, right before I leave HQ, right around 60 grams. And then at night, just a high protein meal with some kind of like a sweet potato, half of a sweet potato, maybe some rice. So the little amount of carbs I do get is backloaded. And 1, it helps me fall asleep at night. And 2, I find my willpower is lowest at night. So if I'm going to have something carb-based, I'd rather have it at night. And it works for me. And then maybe like right now we're watching a TV show called Beef. Hilarious TV show. It's an all-Asian cast. And we just watched 1 episode, me and the wife, and we will, I always have a sweet tooth. I told you earlier, I'm a fat kid by design. And so I'll get, the 2% Greek yogurt, and I'll put a scoop of that strawberry whey protein that I brought you. And it's sweet, it's tasty, has little chunks of strawberry in it. So it's pretty easy to get your protein intake throughout the day if you're deliberate about it. If you're not deliberate about it, dude, it is so hard to maintain muscle at 49 years old. It's just, that's what works for me. Now, I don't know, people will be like, man, that's not enough calories. It is for me.
Yeah. I think independent of calories, I think at the end of the day, it's the protein makes it. I mean, period. And the evidence is pretty darn strong that you can maintain and even build muscle in a deficit as long as protein needs are met, right? As long as you're there. And I mean, deficits are important, surpluses are important, sure, calories in, calories out, but I think there's a lot more to the equation than just that, and I think prioritizing protein, and even when I had Peter Attia on the channel, I was pretty surprised because it was the first that I had really heard about it from someone in the space that had a lot of credibility and threw me a curveball saying that, hey, flat out, like you would almost 1.5x the protein intake when people are over 40, like from what they would previously. So it's, you actually just, your muscle protein synthesis purely goes down and your rates of muscle protein breakdown go up. And there's not a lot of explanation as to why, other than probably just inefficiencies somewhere along the way.
Yeah. And that's the funny thing, right? Like being in tune with my body, I've felt that over the years. Like I'm becoming inefficient at putting on muscle. I'm becoming inefficient at burning fat. So I start regulating the things that, like carbs, fats, proteins, and I found that an overconsumption of protein for me actually works. Yeah. Actually works. And so why not? And I've got a great doctor, Gabrielle Lyon, and she's always, every 90 days we're doing blood workup. And so we're checking kidney function, we're checking liver function. So it's not like I'm eating so much volume of protein where it's affecting my organs. It's not. And so that helps optimize.
I think you'd have to be at a pretty extreme level to have that happen.
For a long period of time.
Yeah, or be compromised in some other way to have that. I think most of the literature is suggesting that, I mean, it's probably a moot point for most people.
Agreed.
And I think with the protein piece, there's also just the natural displacement of other things. I think people don't always realize they consume more protein and they're just naturally consuming less carbs. They're naturally consuming less junk. It's just, and it happens unconsciously. You just, if you prioritize protein just by nature of displacement, the garbage starts to kind of wean down.
Dude, but in my 20s and even early 30s, I could probably have, I don't know, 0.5, 0.7 grams of protein per pound of body weight and still put on muscle. It just worked. It's so interesting to see how your body, I've been working out since I was 17. So I've got a long period of time to see how my body responds to things. And just higher protein, higher fat, lower carbs works for my body type. And I think that's what most people need to factor in. There is no one cookie cutter diet for a 49-year-old man or a 39-year-old man, because how your body processes things, how it prioritizes storing things. I think all of that matters.
Yeah. When I like that you allocate your carbohydrates towards the evening, that's always been my thought process too. And again, there's literature to back it up. I don't try to live my life only based on what literature is showing.
Right.
But I do like to reinforce with that. If something works for me in my own N of 1 and I'm like, wait a minute, okay, well, literature also backs that up. if I have carbs earlier in the day, it does something to my productivity. Like I don't feel as productive. If it's intra workout, I can get by with it. But if it's outside of the workout window and I'm having more than 30 grams of carbs in one sitting, in one bolus, it's, I don't want to say it's game over, but there's a noticeable change in my focus, a noticeable change in my energy levels. I don't really care if I get lethargic at night. So that's an optimal time for me to have carbs. I would rather be lethargic and ready to go to bed. Speaking of that, do you have a sleep optimization strategy that you particularly follow as you've kind of gotten older? Because I've noticed time and time again, people that I talk to, they say like with each decade, sleep gets lighter and lighter and lighter, and you start sleeping less and less and less. So I feel like it becomes more and more and more important.
It is. It's funny. I used to, man, I don't know how this worked. I never had, what is it, blackout curtains. You know, when we bought our house, like just had regular curtains, and you know, so 5:30 in the morning, the sun starts peeking in. I was still able to sleep. Now, like the last 5 years, like we've had blackout curtains installed in our room because one little piece of light and I'm awake. And I don't want that. I know I need more sleep. My body's requiring more sleep for me. So definitely I'm blocking out light. In fact, to the point where, you know, my beard trimmer, it's sitting there next to the sink, and it's got the little light because it's on the charger. And when the light turns blue, it's fully charged. Bro, I could feel the blue light from way across the room on me, like it's a spotlight. So I have to get up and, you know, if I'm brushing my teeth, and remember, I take it off the charger. But if not, I'll get out of bed to take it off the charger because it won't let me sleep. Even 5 years ago, 8 years ago, that would have been a non-issue. So there's factors like that. And then, of course, caffeine. We were talking about it on our walk. I'll have one cold brew in the morning, pre-workout, and that is it. If I have another cup of coffee later on in the day, even if it's around 11, 12 o'clock, I could feel it. I could feel it. And I used to be that guy who would drink like a Diet Coke with dinner and it wouldn't affect me. I would be able to go to sleep. Today, if I did that, I'd be up all night. So definitely caffeine or any kind of stimulant intake, light for sure. And then also I can't have a lot of stuff on my mind pre going to bed. I will start solving all the problems of the world. If you text me and you're like, hey man, I'm having this problem in my work or in my business or whatever. And I'm like, all right, man, let's start working on it. It's like 9:30 at night and I'm going to go to bed at 10. Now I'm trying to solve Thomas's problems all night long. And so I turn off my phone notifications where text and the ringer is concerned about 7 p.m. And my theory is if HQ is burning down, I've got a CEO that the fire department needs to call, not me. Like, call my CEO. There's a whole chain of command of people you need to call before you ever call me. And if it's burning down, I don't know how to fight a fire. So I'll find out in the morning, right? I didn't go to fire school. Whereas the old me was like, I need to know everything right now. And I would somehow be able to survive off 3-4 hours of sleep. And my mentality used to be that, you know, like I said, I could sleep when I'm dead. Now I need my sleep, so I need to optimize. I need peace of mind. I need all lights turned off. And I hit the hot tub. The hot tub I found really helps me just like relax and chill. That's another thing that helps me fall asleep. And then the carbs at night, definitely. You know, you get that insulin spike. You start feeling lethargic. And I'll take some magnesium as well. 2 magnesium pills about 30 minutes before I'm out.
What does your training look like these days? Because I mean, you maintain some pretty awesome body composition.
Yeah. So the training is typical meathead. I train twice a day. It's twice a day, about 6 days a week. It's actually 7 days a week, but I travel a lot. So on a travel day, I may not train. And so I say 7 days a week because it ends up being 6 for sure. But some weeks it's 7 days a week, twice a day. So I'll always do kind of what we did. I'll superset 2 muscle groups that are either complementing or opposing, right? It might be chest and triceps, or shoulders and tris, or back and biceps. I'll superset everything. I'm not looking to take 3-minute rests like I used to when in my 20s and try and max out with, you know, four heavy reps. I'll keep the reps somewhere between 8 and 12 max, short rest periods. I'll pick 4 exercises and knock out, not counting the warm-up sets, I'll knock out three working sets of each, supersetted. Typical workout, 40 minutes, and I'm done. In the evening, it's either jujitsu 2 to 3 times a week, or it's some kind of a high intensity interval training program. I call it Ride the Lightning, and my son and I named it. I'll take the sled, I'll put a battle rope, the long battle rope on it. I'll put 2 45-pound plates on the sled, and then we'll set the timer for 19 minutes, and we pull the sled. So I'm pulling the sled, and then when it gets to me, I'm pushing it. And then my son's got a 45-pound plate in each hand, and he's doing farmer walks the whole time. And then as soon as I pulled the sled and pushed it back, he lets go of the plates. Now he's pulling and pushing the sled while I'm doing farmer walks, farmer carries. And we just do that for 19 minutes, and then knock out abs for about 6 minutes. Like abs, core. I focus a lot on core these days, not just like the visual abs, but like the planks, the side planks, and all those things that are going to help me get core stability. Again, mobility, flexibility, core work, far more valuable to me now north of 40 than it was south of 40. So I'll break a great sweat between jujitsu or Ride the Lightning. I'll break a great sweat, make sure the old ticker is going to be working well for the long haul, and that's it. Call it a night.
When we talk about motivation, kind of keeping that drive, we talked a little bit when we were walking about TRT and when it might be time, right? Like it's a big thing, and I think for some reason it's taboo to talk about it in some ways, but I think it's a very real thing and a very acceptable thing. And I mean, how does someone know when maybe it's time? I mean, and what does your regimen look like, even just surface level? And when did you sort of take that leap and said, hey, like I need this extra little push to kind of.
So I'm a big believer in optimizing myself, no different than an athlete would. And I'm an entrepreneur. I have many different companies. I've got great teams that run my companies, and I'm always out there speaking on stage. And I want my health and my energy, my focus, everything optimized. Like if I knew there was something wrong with my business, I would optimize it. And so to me, when I started to feel the decrease of testosterone was when I started to start feeling foggy-headed around 39, 40 years old. Foggy-headed. I would go to the gym. At the time, I didn't have my own gym, so I would go to a big box gym, and then, like, you know what? I'm going to watch a YouTube video before I go inside. I'm just, like, not a motivational YouTube video, just like a car review or whatever, right? Just a fun YouTube video. I would procrastinate. And I'm like, maybe I'll take a 10-minute nap after that and then go. So I'd crack my window and take a 10-minute nap, and I'm like, this is not like me. I'm getting foggy-headed. I'm feeling lethargic by about 3 in the afternoon. I'm feeling like I don't really bring the thunder like I used to in the gym. And then started to notice libido was going down. And again, to me, I've been in the fitness industry for many years. I'm like, I think my test levels might be low. And I'd used testosterone in my early 20s for a few years. And so, and when I say used, I mean abused. I'm going to be very open and honest with you. I would drive into, living in Southern California, and I lived in San Diego, I would drive into Tijuana, buy a whole bunch of Cestanon, buy a whole bunch of Anavar, buy a whole bunch of D-Ball and Deca, and then drive it back and use a ton of it. But when I got married, stopped using it. We wanted to have kids and launched into entrepreneurship. And I was fine all the way through my late 20s and early to mid 30s. But around 38, 39, I started to feel that lethargy, low libido, foggy headedness. And like, I'm not really bringing the thunder in the gym. I'd rather take a nap in the car. And I'm like, this is not me. And so I had my blood test levels done, and the doctor, this was before Dr. Gabriel Line. The doctor was like, you've got the testosterone levels of an average housewife. I was like, whoa, that is nuts. I go, what do you suggest? He goes, getting on some testosterone therapy. I was like, oh man, like I don't want to have to take a shot every week. But I reluctantly did. And I think it was one of the best things I did. Today, Dr. Gabriel has me optimized. I'm taking 1 cc of testosterone every week. And then I take the peptides, which is the BPC 157 and the TB 500, more for recovery from injuries. Like my knees are wrecked from jujitsu, but I just keep going. Do you do jujitsu?
I don't, but you're like the 4th person in the last month that has now told
me
I
don't ever start it.
Don't start it. Okay.
No, you should. You should. It's just Like, you're a problem solver. Like, if you're a problem solver, jiu-jitsu is like fitness with solving problems, like on the spot. And the problem is someone's about to break or try and break your elbow or tear your shoulder or choke you out, a stranglehold. And you're like, oh, this is a great problem I got to get out of. And you can tap anytime and stop. But you're like, I think I got this. And so it becomes addictive because I love solving problems, and it becomes addictive. It's fun. You make friends, and I'm a bit of an introvert naturally anyway. So I start making new friends, and I love it. But starting jiu-jitsu at 49, because I started, I don't know, 13, 14 weeks ago, my body's not as pliable and it breaks down very quickly. So BPC 157, TB 500 really help with recovery. And then outside of Gabrielle's recommendation, I have to say this, outside of Gabrielle's recommendation, I do take 2 IUs of growth hormone every day, 6 days a week.
That explains the forehead. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. 2 IUs of growth hormone every day. And that's been very helpful for me. I've told her about it, but obviously it's not something that she prescribes. I get that on my own. Again, I know how to optimize my body, and it is not anywhere near the amount of abuse of testosterone that I used to do in my early 20s. And I just feel optimized, and libido is fine. The energy is fine. Foggy headedness is solved, and I can get into the gym and get after it. I love getting after it with young guys like you and do my best to keep up. Like, it makes me feel good. Like, I'm a competitive person. I want that. If I didn't have that, I'd be depressed. And people are like, yeah, but what if? Look, I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke. I don't eat foods that are packaged. I don't over caffeinate myself and take all this like poison into my body. We were talking about all the Adderall and Modafinil and Vyvanse and all that people take. And so if this is the thing that I'm doing in a controlled environment that optimizes my health and my physique, I'm all in on it.
I've never really understood why someone that is just trying to get a hormone back to a normal level under the supervision of a physician, why that can be so taboo, but going out and binge drinking or even drinking at all is perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand on the surface because there's just not the education that's out there. But just like you said, I mean, you're polished, you're contributing to society in a positive way. And I think generally speaking, for people like you, it's optimizing what needs to be optimized so that you can contribute to society, you can provide for your family the way that you want to, you can provide jobs for your employees, and maybe you wouldn't be able to do that if you weren't, or at least do it as well, right?
Yeah, not to the level that I do it at. Like, I can go. And it's not like I have the same energy that I had in my 20s, but for 49, man, I feel like I'm in my mid-30s. And a lot of it has to do with the sleep and the food and working out twice a day. Nothing irritates me more, Thomas, than when I'll post a picture right after a good workout. You got the pump, so it would be a crisis if you did not take that picture. And so, I'll find the best lighting in my gym, and I'll take the picture and I'll post it. And I was like, steroid abuse. It's like, dude, when I abused steroids, I had no abs. Yeah, I could squat, bench, and deadlift a lot of weights. I was 248 pounds back then. I'm 223 pounds as of this morning. So I'm leaner, more athletic. I have more cardiovascular endurance. I use far less stuff under a doctor's supervision, every 90 days blood tests. And no one gives credit to my sleep pattern. No one gives credit to how clean I eat. Like you saw, like I brought my own protein with me. Like I assumed that there was protein here, but I'm like, I'm not. What if there isn't? Yeah. Right. I'll bring my own protein with me. I'll bring my own water with me. Like after when we leave here, we're going to make sure we get a high protein meal. I structure all that. I prioritize all that. And the testosterone optimization is just a little bit of benefit on top of all that. But I think it's because people like to believe that if it's legal, it must be okay. They don't realize that if it's legal, like cigarettes, like alcohol, it's because the masses use it and there's a big payment being paid all the way up the food chain to the politicians who approve and make alcohol legal and cigarettes legal and vaping legal. All those things are far more damaging than regulated testosterone use. And then you have things like, what was it, back in the 90s, Lyle Alzado. I think he played for the Raiders, right?
Yeah.
Look, man, it was so unfortunate. He died of cancer. And as he's dying of cancer, he makes a big public announcement like, it's steroids that are killing me. Now, I don't know that. And Did he have some pre-existing condition that got aggravated by large amount of steroid use? Because I can't imagine that a doctor was prescribing him steroids, that he was probably using something off market in large capacities or large amounts to be able to be that competitive on a professional football team. But when someone that influential says steroids are part of what contributed to this cancer and killed me, everyone just goes, steroids bad. That's it. We live by headlines. Society, unfortunately, lives by headlines. They don't read. Like, they'll see a picture, they won't read the caption. They go, you're a racist. Like, did you read the caption? Yeah. And so with all that said, we have a misinformed society that believes that if it's legal, then it must be okay to do, when in reality, if you made testosterone legal, like just sold on the counter next to Advil, not enough people would buy it. So there's no reason to legalize it. This is why marijuana was legalized. Like, they realized, like, wait a minute, people are selling it in baggies in alleys everywhere. Why don't we just legalize it, tax all these dispensaries, and start making money, right? So there's no reason to legalize testosterone and just sell it next to Advil, because not enough people would buy it to benefit people. So let's just criminalize it and say that it's really, really bad, because look, athletes everywhere are dying. But in reality, it's not the main cause of death. Like, I can't imagine, and I don't know the autopsy results of Lyle Alzado, but I can't imagine his death was a byproduct of steroids. But that's what he said on the news, and those are the headlines that stuck.
And nowadays, the physicians that are good at the TRT side are really good. And it's not like anyone is endorsing going on the black market and doing this. That's not what, I mean, yes, there are people that endorse that, but you're certainly not. And this is something that's no different than, in a lot of ways, a woman going on birth control.
Right.
Optimizing or regulating a hormone that could be out of whack. I know plenty of people that have had, oh, your progesterone levels are out of whack. We're going to put you on a progesterone pill to bring these levels. That is a hormone that is out of whack, that is disrupting and making that female's life uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And sure, no matter what the case, no matter how he got there, you could have a 45-year-old male that feels terrible, doesn't even maybe want to live anymore. What's my purpose? I can't provide for my kids. I can't, I'm not setting an example. I'm not making the next generation better because I don't have the if someone wants to be a better father because they want to raise their kids right and they want to be there for their kids, and I mean, heaven forbid, the only way that they feel like they have the energy to do that is to optimize a hormone back to its normal level. I mean, that's where I just don't understand why it's not, why we can't look at it a little bit different. I'm not expecting people to accept it in this way where it just has to be embraced, but I am expecting people to say, hey, I understand why. Yeah. And you do you, So it's, what would you say some of the signs that maybe a guy in his 40s says, okay, maybe it's time that I actually look at this stuff? Like, what were some things that were maybe symptomatic?
Sure. One, maybe you're not sleeping well. 2, low sex drive. 3, you're foggy headed and you don't have this drive that you used to have. I'm not talking about the drive that you had when you were 18, 19. I'm talking about, like, all of a sudden you can tell, like, almost like you hit a wall. Yeah. Like, one day you hit a wall. That's what it felt like to me. And when I talked to a lot of dudes, it felt like, dude, it felt like one day I just hit a wall. I don't have this drive anymore to get after it. And then of course, recovery. You have a great workout and it's taking you longer to recover from it. And you realize, I think these all might be indicators to have my blood testosterone levels checked. And it's worth doing. Yeah. Again, if you're looking to make the most amount of impact, have your body the most optimized, reach your highest potential, I'm guessing the viewers of your show here, the listeners of your show, they're not the average person who just wants to get by and live this rat race of a life. They're looking to optimize their health, fitness, sleep, mental capacity, physical capacity. And if you are, this is one of those levers that you can truly pull on. And I think it's very good to do. And I think it would be a massive oversight if you didn't.
Yeah. And I think that, something that I want to add is, just because your levels aren't where you want them, I think being symptomatic is the most important thing. Because I can say that my testosterone levels on paper are not astronomically high. They're in the 300s. That's, low average. but I'm not symptomatic, right? I have a great sex drive. My libido's fine. My recovery's good. My sleep is wonky, but that maybe that's the first indicator, right? And I've said openly that I have absolutely no issue with going on it when it's time, right? But I want to stress to people that, yeah, you should do the most with the least for as long as you can,
right?
But not at the detriment of your health, right? Like if having low levels of energy, low levels of motivation have now become an impedance to you being able to live a healthy life. You don't have the motivation to even eat right. You don't have the motivation to sleep right. You don't have the motivation to use your body. We now know how important muscle mass is and strength is for true longevity. If you don't even have the energy to do that, then you're potentially doing yourself a disservice. So take a good look in the mirror and like ask yourself, what am I after? Are you a professional athlete where you have to, it's a banned substance? That's a different situation. Right. That's a completely different ballgame.
And it's funny that you said something super powerful, man. And I just want to underscore that for a moment, which is you may not have the motivation to train right and therefore not eat right. And therefore it really does create this domino effect, a slippery slope. I know this for myself. If I'm not training right, my diet gets compromised. I wish I can say it doesn't, but if I'm not training right, I'm more likely to loosen up on my diet. If I'm not training right and my diet has gotten looser, it's starting to affect my work, my business. It'll start bleeding into my family life. Like the slippery slope is real because how you do anything is how you do everything. And your body, it's a system where it's all connected. I can't be driven to be a great father, driven to be a great entrepreneur, but then not be driven to eat right and train right. Like all those things are connected. And so for that reason, I don't want the domino effect to happen because it diminishes my experiences, my human experience with my family, with my kids, with my businesses, with the impact that I'm making and the legacy that I want to live and leave. And so to me, that's massively valuable and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to stay optimized.
I love that, man. Well, where can everyone find you?
Best place to find me is on either Instagram or YouTube at Bedros Keuilian.
Beautiful. Thanks, brother.
Thank you.